See, that still works. Hi everyone, how we doing? Welcome along to Tech Meetup, July. Sorry about starting this a little bit later. Ryan, who's became the chief pizza organiser, didn't make the pizza didn't turn up in time. Ryan, thanks for nothing. Nah, that was on me, unfortunately, and the bad traffic in Glasgow. So first of all, thanks for coming along to Tech Meetup. I'll be running the event alongside Aaron and Ryan at the back, the pizza guy. As always, be nice, be kind, that's all we ask, and have plenty of fun. So first of all, want to say thanks as always to our sponsors, Mac Recruit Group, which is where I work, Create Future, VidaTech. We've got Ross in the building tonight, who's from VidaTech, Sonos and Brightsword. Without them, the Keith line, it wouldn't be possible without them. Yeah, sorry, we've got Tracy from Mac Recruit Group as well. I forgot about her. Sorry about that. Yeah, she's the one that signed you in. We'll get somebody better next month. So if you want to follow us on our social channels, that goes for our sponsors as well. I'll give you a minute and you can copy the QR code. You'll find everything about our sponsors. You'll find the Tech Meetup on LinkedIn and all the rest of our social channels, as well as our lovely venue is on there as well. I'm waiting to see the last phone get put down. Perfect. Cool, so I'll not bore you too much. The agenda for tonight, excuse the timings, drinks and pizza should have been 6 p.m. It was unfortunately 6:30. Our first talk will take place now, and 7 p.m. we'll have a very short break. As you can see tonight, we're live streaming, so we want to keep it as short as possible. So we'll go out, take 10 minutes, and then head back in pretty sharp. We'll do our second talk, and we'll be finished up for 7:40. Unlike before, we'd encourage people to spend 20 minutes or so doing that final little bit of networking before we head over to Jackson's bar. And I'll now pass you over to Aaron, who will introduce our speakers.
Thanks, Stephen. So our first speaker tonight is Chris Brown. I've worked with Chris before with architectures, so that's where his day job is. He's going to be talking to you about how to become a better engineer through the lens of building games. So Chris, if you want to come up, and we'll get your slides up and get you going.
I think I'm wired for sound already, so I'm just going to be shouting at people. Can I slap that button there and have it work? No, I cannot. Tech already. Sod it. I will just wing it.
Yeah, that'll get rid of my
All right. Cool. Okay, apparently I can't have my notes up, so this is going to be even less organized than I previously thought it was, so sorry about that. I take it everyone knows what video games are. I probably don't need to explain this slide to start with. So I will give a little bit of housekeeping to start with. Can people up the back hear me okay? Jamie, give me a wave if you can hear me. That sounds good. I know this screen can be a little bit small, so if you want to follow along with the slides, you can grab them there and maybe make it a bit easier on yourself. I'll wait till folks have put their phones down before I continue on. Cool, I think that's everyone. So yeah, why am I standing in front of you here? So my name is Chris. I have been in tech for 11 years now, which is terrifying to say. across loads of different sectors. I've worked in medtech, fintech, e-commerce, fashion, weirdly. And nowadays, I'm the lead engineer for a Glasgow software as a service architectural startup. I've been there for about a year. There's a couple of my colleagues here who I now cannot, there they are, hiding down the front. Come and talk to them afterwards if you want to complain about the talk rather than talking to me. And previously spoke at Glasgow Tech about PHP and HTMX. If you were at those and came back, thanks very much. It can't have been as bad as I thought it was. Basically, none of this is relevant to what I'm going to talk to you about tonight. What is relevant is that in my spare time, I make video games. Majority of them are through game jams. And the kind of whole pitch for this talk is that you should maybe try doing the same, particularly if you want to become better at your day job. Although I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, so let's go one step back. Can I get a show of hands who actually knows what game jams are to start with? Okay, that's a reasonable number, about a dozen, I would say. Can I get a show of hands who's taking part in one? That is a lot less, but still, yeah, 4 or 5. Okay, cool. So I think I've done this for literally every talk, is just steal a definition off of Wikipedia. So game jam is an event where participants try to make a game from scratch. Depending on the format, participants might work independently or in teams, and the event duration usually ranges from 24 to 72 hours. That is an extremely broad definition. Basically, the only part of this that is true across all jams is you're going to be making a game from scratch. The time limit one, there is a game jam that will last for 0 hours that happens between the start and end of the clocks going back, so you have literally passed no time at all. There are some really fun games come out of that because everyone's just losing their mind at 2 a.m. There are others that last months. There are ones that are entirely online. Nordic Game Jam, I think, is the only one I know of that's entirely in person, limited tickets kind of thing. And some are even more specific than that. There is one that I've never taken part in and always wanted to, which is a Nokia 3310 game jam, where whatever you make has to run on a Nokia. So that's, yeah. Basically, the point I'm making is there's a lot of different ways to do this, but the main thing is that you have limited amount of time and you're making a game. Why do I think this is a good environment to actually learn things that will apply to your day job? Well, first off, it's just not your day job. For the vast majority of people here, I'm going to assume you don't make games day to day. You might not make anything kind of day to day, depending on what you're doing. But this removes a lot of the pressure of, well, you're not getting paid for it. I've made a grand total of $12 out of all of the games that I've made, and I can't withdraw that from HIO for tax reasons. Yeah, that removes a whole lot of pressure from you. Also, like, because it's not what you do as your day job, you're not getting judged in the same way. You know, you're not worrying about your colleagues judging you, not being good at something. You're not worrying about your next pay rise or upsetting your boss or any of that kind of thing. So all the stuff you face in your day-to-day job is out the window. That's the wrong button. That's the right button. You have, on the other hand, all of that replaced with the time limit. The kind of perfect time limit that I found for these is like 3 days. It gives you enough time to set aside, really put your head down into it. And if it all goes really badly, it's only 3 days, what's the big deal? If you spent a month on it, you're going to be a bit more annoyed. And this is another kind of big one, is like if you're really struggling with this, a lot of these game jams have fantastic communities around them. These are all people that have came together to do this one thing under a pretty pressure cooker environment, and they're all wanting everyone else to succeed. So you have ways to get in touch with them, speak with them, and really just get friends out of it at the end of the day, which is a nice bonus. So that is kind of half this thing. The other part is, well, what are you actually going to learn out of this? If you're not going to become a full-time game developer, and in the current climate, maybe don't become a full-time game developer, they keep all getting fired. And this is probably the part where this talk might all fall apart. The case that I'm going to make is you can approach game jams with the attitude of someone that is looking to improve and become more senior in their day-to-day job. So, step one. If you're making a game in 3 days, you have to go from this is what it is. I'm not even going to try and explain it. I'm not good at art. So this to a finished game in I think this one was 48 hours. The only way that you can do that, go from ideation to final product in that time, is to build a lot of ideas very quickly and learn how to discard them very quickly. If you go for perfection in version 1, you are never finishing anything. Why is that useful day to day? Well, how many meetings have people spent time in where you are going over the same topic over and over and over? You have one problem and you're discussing 400 solutions to get there and not actually building anything. This gives you the mindset to just throw all of that away. You want to figure out if something's going to work? Build it. Build a small version. See, actually get an answer. Part 2, scope slashing. You will have heard of scope creep. This is basically the opposite of that. The first few times, actually, I'm going to say basically every single time I've done one of these jams, I have massively, massively overscoped what we thought we were going to be able to build in the time that we have. You get to the third day and go, really trying not to swear because I know this is being recorded. Get to the third day and go, well, this is just not possible. You're going to have to decide what to cut. And yeah, you can just cut whatever, but you need to decide what to cut and still leave the core of your game as an enjoyable experience. You are going to lose time. Games are hard. Like, the number of ways a game can break compared to a website is staggering. The bugs that you will find are like nothing on earth. So you're going to lose time. Even if you somehow scoped correctly for the time you had is no longer the time you had. You have other things to do. And yeah, because it is limited time, you are really up against the clock. You need to be able to make these decisions very quickly and be confident in them. Hopefully it's a bit more obvious why this one can pass over to day jobs. Anyone seen this triangle before? Anyone familiar with it? This is the product management triangle, I think is the official term for it. Basically what we're saying is you have 3 variables, cost, time, and scope, and you have to change one to allow for the others to increase. That was a really bad explanation of that. Most of the time in your day job, unless you are literally running the company, cost and time are probably out of your hands. The only thing that you can really affect meaningfully is to cut or increase scope of what you are doing. Most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, that's going to involve cutting scope. If you have done this in a high pressure environment, something that you're very used to doing, it makes it a lot easier to do in day-to-day when you are able to frame the arguments in the way that you would use to yourself when the project is entirely on you. You are evaluating, you're learning what and when to cut, allowing you to not piss off people higher up in the company, which is always a good thing. Carrying on from that, general project management. Now, if you're in a big, big company, you probably have people that deal with all of the project management stuff for you. You probably don't touch project management on a day-to-day basis. Unfortunately, if you spend any time on game dev, Blue Sky, or Twitter, you will have seen this tweet before. This is nobody told me when you make a video game, you have to make the whole thing. There is no shortcuts to it. You have to make the whole thing. This guy, Ben Esposito, actually is a developer on Neon White and Donut Country, both of which are fantastic. God, Donut County, I do that every single time. Both of which are absolutely fantastic games. Neon White in particular was my favorite game the year it came out. Absolutely check them out. But yeah, this just means that you are going to have to deal with arts. You're going to have to deal with music. You're going to have to deal with the programming. You're going to have to deal with marketing. You're going to have to deal with bug fixing. You're going to have to deal with QA. You're going to have to deal with user testing. And you are going to have to perhaps manage that across multiple members of your team. You're unlikely to have a project manager for a game jam. It's everybody's job. You got to get good at it. Get used to having lots of spreadsheets and trying to make people update them. If you touch Jira for a game jam, you're insane. Just throw it in a spreadsheet. It's much better. I feel like why I learned this is fairly self-evident, right? If you want to not just be one of the people at the bottom of the project management triangle grinding away on Jira tickets, you need to learn to manage upwards as well as across teams. This gives you the experience and the tool set to do that. On the back of that, playing well with others. So, again, games are hard. This game, Many Nights of Whisper, played about 2 months ago. It takes place entirely in one environment. It is about an hour long. There are 18 job titles in the credits of this game. There are a lot of different things to do when you're making a game. And if you're making it on your own, guess what? That's all you. Every single part is as important as the others. I already mentioned that big list that I'm not going to reiterate, but a lot of the time, as engineers in particular, things like marketing well, who cares about that? Why would I want to do that? You don't got a choice. If you want anyone to play your game, you're going to have to do some marketing, even if it is just designing the Steam page or itch.io page or wherever you're putting this out. You got to have that side of the job as well. Why I learned this? This is where I maybe get myself in some trouble. So there is quite a common thread among engineers talking about how the project managers are just there to annoy you about doing your tickets. QA are just there to knock you back on the stuff you've built. Designers, well, they're just there to make your life difficult by giving you fancy pictures. If you have that attitude and want to progress in your career, knock it the fuck off. I was doing so well. You will literally never, ever advance in your career if you keep thinking and acting like that. It is absolutely toxic. Most of your job, not even as management in tech, but in leadership in tech and in engineering, is understanding the forces that are pressing on what you are doing from outside, whether that be people in other roles, whether that be financial reasons, whether that just be different market forces. If you can take the lessons from building a game in isolation, transfer them over, and you'll get a bit of an understanding of this. Honestly, just a little bit of empathy for other people's roles by having been forced to do them. Continuing down the path of being forced to think like other people. Okay, this is a bit story time. This is one of the games that my partner and I have built sometime last year. It is a text adventure based around a kind of Ocean's 11 theme. You're putting a team together, you are then going robbing a bank, and it's kind of lots of decision making. The first half of the game is all putting the team together, and it's just presented like this. You have some options like this, and then you get into the final act of it when you're actually doing the heist, and you've suddenly got all these timed events and all this kind of thing. When I was first building this particular part, this is a shooting gallery using the same interface as the questions from earlier in the game, which at the time I thought was pretty clever. Probably isn't. The time limit I put on this was 1.5 seconds. Because I'd been sitting playing this just over and over and over trying to make this work. It's insane. You put that in front of someone that doesn't know what's coming, it is literally impossible. So you have to start getting in the head of the people that are actually playing your game, because it's kind of who you're doing it all for at the end of the day. You have to start thinking from the perspective of someone that doesn't have any of your biases, your knowledge of the thing you're building, or just your experience of having seen it 1,000 times. The way this really transfers over is stuff like, well, yeah, I've literally just repeated myself there. But it's stuff like you're designing or have built a user interface for something, and I mean, it's obvious, right? You just click on the hamburger icon, or you go to the little user icon in the top to get to log out or anything. A lot of the time, your users just aren't going to know that. You need to be able to guide them in a way that makes them able to use the product you're building. Games are that turned up to 11 because the only thing that it is there for is for user interaction. There is no secondary goal of trying to sell a software as a service product or any of that kind of thing. Again, means you have a very transferable idea if you can start to think like someone that is going to be playing your game and apply it day to day. Again, yeah, because I've not got my notes, I'm really just making this up a little bit as I go along. Sorry about that. Oh yeah, this is the kind of bonus of all this. If you are interviewing from a tech job, the odds are there is a huge nerd sitting at the other side of the table, right? If you can talk about how your exciting weekends making games have applied to your day job, I mean, it's kind of hard to get a better way to get them to pay attention, to actually engage with you. A lot of the time when you're interviewing, speaking from experience. Spoken to a lot of people that day, it's 5 o'clock, you just want to curl up into a ball, you're not really that interested. If you can use this to make a connection, it's pretty good, goes pretty well. So I am gonna, maybe somewhat big-headedly, hope that I've convinced someone here. And how am I doing for time, actually? All good? All good? Cool. Very quickly give you a run of some things that are kind of interesting in terms of the thing that I've not covered here, which is how do you make a game to start with? I don't have like 6 months to give you a correspondence course, so this is a very, very quick couple of pointers. Game engines, first off. Godot is the one that I personally use. It is free, it is open source if you're into that kind of thing. You have 2D and 3D. I don't know if the 3D is any good, but the 2D is absolutely fantastic. Having used several different engines before this and settling on this one is kind of world class for it. You've got a couple of choices if you want to learn their own script or they have a visual builder. If you're not an engineer by background, it's fantastic for that. It lets you just wire everything up without having to worry about actual code. You can build for any platform, build for the web. If you're making a game jam game, if you don't build for the web, nobody's going to download your thing. They'll think it's a virus. Just don't bother. And there are endless amounts of tutorials. You will be able to teach yourself that. So actually, the first time I used it, about a week before the jam that we were going to do started, the engine that I was previously using, Game Maker decided to change their you've paid perpetually license to, nah, give us monthly money instead. So I was like, I'm not going to do that. Instead, a week before I do this event with other people, I'm going to learn a whole new engine, which was really stupid, but it is doable. So you can learn it fairly quickly if you actually want to. On the whole other end of the spectrum is Pico 8. This is essentially a fake console. Kind of SNES era fantasy console is what they call it. Everything is built in, so you're not worrying about having to learn different bits of sprite editing software or music editing software or any of that kind of thing. You have it all there. The limitations that it puts on you about things like storage size and actual size of your game, obviously this is the entire window, really leads you to focus on the user experience, which is a good way to get started in my opinion. And also kind of fun is these kind of images at the bottom, these are actually games that you can just fire straight into it. The way that they export games is just as little pictures of carts and it runs entirely in it. They just chuck the whole thing in a metadata. I think that's kind of cool. If you are looking to sign up to an actual jam, this one is happening end of this month. It is by far the biggest. The average for these, I would say, is somewhere between 100 and 500 attendees. This is 20K. It's been the biggest for 5 years. It continues to be the biggest. Good and bad. If you're wanting to get actual feedback on what you're building, you're out of luck because there's just so much competition. But if you just want to take part, get a massive amount of community, this is the one to start with. There are so many first-timers every single year. It's probably my favorite, personally. That's the one that we've done the most often. If you would rather actually do this in person, Global Game Jam runs 2 events a year. One is longer. This is the kind of shorter one. There are people that meet up to actually do these in person in Glasgow and Edinburgh, and I believe Dundee as well. You don't have to do it in person, it is online as well, but this is a great way if you want to actually build out a team, kind of get to know people a little bit better as you're doing it, or just have some accountability that you can't just like sleep for 48 hours and not finish your game. And if none of those are interesting, there are so many of these. They're just constant. Like this is just this month and last month, I just loaded up this list of jams, and this page goes on for like 5 more pages down the bottom. You'll find one for whatever you want to do if you want to do these. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Do we have any questions? Or, well, that's all.
Hi, so this is Pejman from Strathlight. Lovely presentation. So when you say 2 to 3 days, so people don't sleep, they just sit there and code, or?
So, yes, some people do that. I generally advise against it. The way that I do it is I will try and keep to a normal routine. For longer ones, I will try and keep my normal life going. I'll still go to the gym, I'll still go to work and all that kind of thing. For 2 to 3 days, normally I'm going to eat a few takeaways, but I'm not going to be sitting at my computer from like 8 a.m. to 2 in the morning. If I was still 20, I might, not so much nowadays. But yeah, people definitely do it. I would really advise against it. Also, don't start drinking beer at 4 in the afternoon and continue doing this, or your game is going to get real interesting real quickly. Any other questions? Cool. Oh no, got a couple more. Excellent. I think we've got. Sorry.
If you decide to use Godot, how long do you have to wait for it?
Do you know, I ended up looking up how to pronounce it beforehand like 4 times because I was worried about mispronouncing it, and I now can't remember what the proper pronunciation is, so yeah. I think we had one more question floating about as well. Excellent.
Thanks. Do you know of any games from a solo developer that have been published?
So, this is an interesting question. I know of a lot of games where a solo developer has said that they have published it on their own. In reality, you look at the credits for those games, they have done the majority of the work themselves, absolutely. There is always a little bit of, whether it's QA or other outsourcing of art or that kind of thing. The one that probably comes closest to it, the one that people use as an example, is Stardew Valley, but even he has pushed a lot of stuff out to other people over the years. The first version of it was mostly him, yeah. I don't know how much I want to get into this, but there's a lot of conversation at the moment about what size should a team be when they're making a game, a production game, not just a game jam. People are really deriding this idea of massive teams making games. There's a lot of chat of the lionization of the small team. For people that are kind of in that space, Expedition 33 came out a month or so ago, and they made a big deal about the fact it was made by only 30 people. Isn't that amazing? It just wasn't. Like, the credits for that game have like 120 names in it. If your core team is 30 people and you outsource all your work, 30 people did not make that game. Long-winded answer, but not really. But yes, there are very, very, very small teams. There are people that are very, very dedicated to the thing that they are making and make it, vast majority of it themselves, and are successful. There are many more that don't. Making something on your own is a great way to not actually make the thing, in my opinion. I'm back. To be honest, that could just be me. I need other people forcing me to actually do it. But
that was a great presentation. Thank you very much. As a UX lead, I was delighted to hear you talking about the user thinking side. What has it taught you about working with designers that you didn't know before?
Oh, interesting. So it is a little bit different for me for this because the designer in this is my partner. So I kind of have to take that relationship into account as well, which is very different from a work relationship. The thing that you do learn to appreciate, though, is designs coming in for any bit of thing, whether it's a game, whether it's going to be a website, whether it's going to be an app, any of that, are not built under the same conditions that you are making the final product. And it's very easy to just be like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about, blah, 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 blah. Well, they don't know what you do, but you don't really understand what they do either. The only way that you can actually have a relationship with a designer or anyone else that is not doing your exact job is to talk to them and work with them. That is the main thing, I would say.
Any more?
Cool. I think we're all good.
Thanks,
Again,
Chris.
thank you very much.
We're just going to take a quick comfort stop for about 5 to 10 minutes. If on the 5-minute side would be more preferable. So if you'd like to grab a drink and go to the bathroom and then come back and take your seat, we'll get our next speaker going. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, we'll get there. Hey, we're nearly there. There's some good conversations going. You can keep them going afterwards. I'm chatting. I'm chatting. We're all right. We'll get there. Yeah, we're nearly there. We're nearly there. Hey, great. Oh, fantastic. Thanks, everybody. We're about to get started. It's my pleasure to introduce Peter from, I'm trying to remember, Acumen Cyber. He's going to share some pretty good stories about horrible stuff that happens, when you're dealing with huge amounts of like PII, customer data, those kinds of exciting things. So yeah, if you come up, Peter, and tell us all about it.
Need the wee clicker thing? Yeah. What button is it? The big one? Yeah, the big one. Cool, thank you. So, yeah, the usual obligatory, who am I? Peter King, I've been in the IT for about 10 years, security for about 7. Work at a company called Acumen Cyber, whose names fell off the bottom. But before that, I worked for a company called Adharma. In my time there, and at Acumen, I've done a wee bit of everything. So I've been a consultant, been an engineer, led a team of 90 people. That was the worst thing ever. Done some incident response. Then I've put a wee bit in a bit hobbies, don't really care about, because everybody does it. I have hobbies, right? Cool, so I think I was going to kick off just by, yeah. Oh, is this not working? I knew that was
that one's working, but it's a wee bit quiet, so that'll help us.
Is that better?
That's fantastic, 10 out of 10.
I made eye contact and everything there. Okay, so threat actors, who are they? So up here, everybody know what ransomware is first of all, right? Yeah, cool, loads of nods. Okay, so this is just a sample. These are the top 5, according to Recorded Future right now, of ransomware actors who are out and about. So the one on the far left, Clop, been around since 2019. They're kind of like one of the oldest on the list. You see as well common theme double extortion. So they have been responsible for loads of attacks, too many to mention. I think the key thing to take away from that is they've received 500 million in ransoms in their existence. Profitable business. Killing, I'll be talking about them some more later as well. You see they do double extortion. First mention there of ransomware as a service. Again, I'll come back to that. Their main kind of claim to fame, or claim to infamy if you want, they were behind the Synovus attack that impacted the NHS. They demanded 50 million in ransom. Likely Russian, not necessarily confirmed, but they are part of the kind of cabal of ransomware groups that don't target the Commonwealth of Independent States, which Russia really drives. Next along is Akira. So they were birthed out of Conte ransomware group, who were taken out. Again, double extortion as a theme, ransomware as a service as a theme. Had some numbers that they have received about 40 million. Not been on the go that long, so good payday for them as well. Play ransomware 2022. Again, double extortion, another theme. The main thing to pick up here is the Cobalt Strike. So they are, all of these guys will use whatever they can get, right? But Play doesn't have an inbuilt way to get things out of networks. So Cobalt Strike's something that is a technology that I'll be happy to talk about later. They were also one of the ones who started using smart encryption. So instead of finding a file and going, it's really important, but too big for me to encrypt, they started building in smart encryption where they would encrypt blocks of files so that they could get it back later, and they didn't have to encrypt the whole thing. And finally, Ransom Hub. I made that picture myself. The rest of them are official logos. That one I just put an R and an H together. They, again, double extortion. They only go after high value targets. The rest of them will pretty much pick up whatever they can. They only care about the big. Those, and they've got a conscience. They don't go after non-profits. I forget the name now, but they've got a non-profit and they actually released an apology saying, we're really sorry, we didn't mean to do that to you, here's all your stuff back. The rest of them aren't like that, especially Killing, they are extremely nasty. Okay, so this is kind of the evolution. So the history of ransomware, I don't know if anybody remembers the police ransomware, where somebody's machine would get a policeman on the front and it would say, you have either been watching illegal porn, downloading films or music, or you've been up to something else, give us 250 quid and we'll open up your machine again. My brother actually got that years ago, and he came in a panic, like, the police are on my machine and they're telling me I need to give them money, and he was like, I don't know where my bank card is, and I was like, do you think if the police were here, they'd be like, you could just give them 250 quid? And they'd be like, aye, cool. Obviously not, right? So, but that's kind of where it started. So all the way up to the modern day, I won't go through the whole kind of evolution, but this is the new way that they do it. So the big box at the top, and apologies for the rubbish graphics, these feel really inadequate after the last one. That was really well designed. So the big box at the top, these are the operators. These guys build, maintain, distribute their ransomware. They'll operate portals for the ransomware affiliates underneath. They'll offer tech support. They will offer advice to the affiliates of how to get into networks and how to negotiate with people. Killen, who were on the last slide, they have added a call a lawyer button to their portal for their affiliates. So if they're in the middle of a negotiation, they can click the button and they go through to a lawyer who will say, nah, their insurance company can pay you, it's all good, don't worry about it. This has become big business for them. And each of the affiliates are responsible for their victims. So what do the operators get out of distributing it to affiliates? So they get bigger reach, right? So they can affect more people. But they take a cut of all ransoms agreed. So when the ransomware gets in, the affiliate does the initial access, makes sure the breach goes as far as they need, facilitates the encryption. They call home to the operator and say, I've got one, I've got somebody. Then the operators take over the negotiation, and now you're dealing with the real kind of masterminds behind it all. Negotiating with the operators is quite the experience. You will be talking to somebody who's really erudite 1 second, and they'll be big words like erudite. They'll be saying things to you like, we've got all your data, I'm talking to the legal department, blah, blah. Then the next guy will pop up and he'll be this guy's manager and say, stop talking to him this way. We know you're not being serious. I need you to move the conversation along. And then a few hours later, when the shift change happens, you get a guy that comes and says, I wait here, you. Genuinely, this is the breadth of people you're dealing with. Cool, so that's who they are. What do they do? So I think the key part for what they do is to really dig into that they always try and achieve the same thing, but in different ways. So this is just a kind of sample, but this is common across all attacks for these kinds of things. So they need a way in the first place. Phishing, everybody will be sick to death of phishing and hearing about it. The exploits, so they'll go after publicly facing stuff, firewalls, applications you've got running. They really, really like to go after those. Klopp, who were on the last slide, love file transfer programs. For some reason, it's just their thing. Invalid credentials, stuff gets out, creds get out, that's why passwords are crap. Lateral movement, again, valid creds, really important. The lateral movement is just how they're going to pivot around all the bits. Exploits again, so they do the first exploit, then they start looking at the rest of the network and go, how can I do the next exploit to get to the next thing, all the while trying to drive towards the crown jewels of the organisation. Leaving RDP sessions, favourite of theirs. In native tools, so PowerShell, command prompt, all that kind of stuff. They love it. Exfiltration, this is the part where they innovated and started to take stuff out. C2 tool, so that's command and control for anybody that doesn't know what C2 is. That is how they talk back to the system, and that's how they get this stuff out. And again, native tools, if you've got secure shell to upload stuff, they'll just use that. They don't really care. Final part is the impact. So once they've been in and they've been lousing about your network and made everything nice and manky, they want to really hurt you. So they'll do encryption. They will encrypt anything that they think is valuable. So again, they've changed their mode here. They used to be encrypt everything and just go as quick as you can. Now they say what's important to you. So you've got a finance system, they'll hit that. You've got source code, they love that. I've seen on one of the ransomware leak blogs that there's an IP lawyer who has loads of patents for people, and they must have had a field day with that one. They'll kill processes, so they'll try and evade detection. They will make sure that the system goes down and comes back up. In defacement, they always leave you a lovely wee note. I really should have had one of the notes in this slide. That would have been nice. Yes?
Peter's just as good of a speaker as I am. He moves about a lot, right? But actually, that's causing us problems because the right setup. So what we need you to do is you can try and stand here, use this instead of that, and hopefully if you face towards our
Right,
cameras
okay.
here, all the
Yeah.
people online will be able to hear
No
your
worries.
fantastic content, and I
No worries.
apologise. Yes.
Do you want me to start again?
No.
Cool.
That's what that serious.
I know. Okay. I'll move on. Okay, so story time. So.
Look at Alan, thumbs up, because he'll be able to show you if it's picking up right.
Okay, cool.
Look at me a little bit.
Yeah? Cool. Okay, so story one. It's called Oh No You Don't. This was an attack that I think whenever anybody asks me what's your favourite, right, so don't ask me this later now because I'm going to tell you now, but they say what's your favourite, it's probably this one. There was a customer who had call handlers throughout the the continental Europe. They would be handling complaints, or my thing didn't get delivered in time, so on and so forth. And they managed to achieve hands-on keys, which is the second part here. So the attacker was in the network, typing things that you could see where they had been, what they'd been typing. The main thing with this was that the attack failed once they hit the critical infrastructure, so they weren't able to achieve their ultimate goal, which was good for us. This happened at Christmas time, which was really interesting. There was me and one other guy available to do the response. So what did we do first? So we went in and we contained the things. We said, okay, where have they been? What have they touched? Let's put a block on that. They can't get anywhere else now. Because the attack had ended, so we'd managed to prove that they weren't still lousing about and doing things, we were able to say, okay, let's start pulling at the thread to see how they got in. So we started at the domain controller that they tried to get to and started tracing the network all the way back. We found that they had tried a wee bit of everything. So they had exploited some vulnerable apps. They had compromised some of those RDP sessions I was saying that they love. They had spun up WMI exec and started going after that. All the way back, we were able to get back to the very PC where the phish happened. So the person got phished, and I was, at the end of it, I was talking to the head of security there, and I said, I love doing this job, but one of the most frustrating things for me is, like, I can see where they got in, but I can't really see where they got in. And the guy went, we record these PC screens all the time. I was like, you're joking? He's like, no, yeah, you've got a video of it. And I could see the person, the call handler got an email in that said, faulty product, whatever it said. They opened the email, they went to the attachment, they hovered over it, the mouse moved away, then they went back, they double-clicked it, ISO gets loaded onto their machine, they double-clicked the WSL in it, and then nothing really happened, and then you can see them Googling, like, what is this? And then they went back, and I was like, oh, don't click the next thing, and then they clicked the next thing, and then that was it. The person just goes on about their day, they've got no clue they've been compromised, they've got no clue what's happening next. And in the back end, all this stuff started kicking off. So we went in there, we did the root cause, and then the cleanup, which is always like my favourite bit, of course, to make sure everything is back the way it's meant to be. The kind of key findings from this is visibility is key. So the thing that failed for this customer was they were in the middle of a migration from one EDR tool to another, endpoint detection and response, for anybody that doesn't know. And the part that the call handlers were in was not protected, so no one's seen anything all the way up until it hit the domain controller where we had just put the tool in, hurry for us. This was a near miss that had to drive culture change in the business, so I was part and parcel of doing that. And I think one of the big lessons here for the customer and for in general is that networks are complicated, so the part that they got into is not where the domain controller lived. Not even the same business in the end. They had no idea that these things could even speak to one another. So yeah, that's the kind of key point of that one. Story 2, you're my ATM now. So someone got spearfished. Does everybody know what spearfishing is? Spearfishing is where you pick someone who in the company is likely to have control of what you want. Finance directors, CEOs, COOs, all these kind of people. You pick them and you target them. You don't just spam everyone. In this scenario, the finance director, or sorry, the assistant to the finance director, literally received an email that said, "Hi Jim, please pay this," an invoice and some bank details. And Jim did just go ahead and pay it, and the funds cleared, and no one was any the wiser. By the time they had noticed and called us in, we got in and we did, again, containment, common theme. The bit that you're containing there is to make sure that the person that sent the email and did the payment can't do that again. So their account gets locked down, you revoke all the sessions, check for any enterprise apps, all this kind of stuff. The additional monitoring, so you check their mail traffic, you check if there's been any info stealers in, you look to see if there's any weird kind of internet connections or point-to-point connections in the network. All good, and then of course my favourite, the cleanup. After that, the key thing for this really was user education. So we didn't really, the company did. They got the person who got phished and said, look, here's what you need to know about this. Here's a video that you can watch about phishing, blah, blah, blah. Then it's proactive defense. So the proactive defense here is make sure that when your things are coming in, that you're doing what you can to stop that being important. So this person getting phished is going to happen. The phishing email landing on them is going to happen, but they don't need to get phished. Scan the things that are coming in, teach them what to look for, and it's not always just spelling mistakes, right? It's weird things. And then better business practice, like just don't pay things that people ask you to pay outright. So why is this called You're My ATM now? Well, this scenario happened again 3 months later to the same person. And we went out and we said, right, like, come on, right, don't do that. Another few months later, this person again makes the same payment, and he said, but they didn't ask me to pay an invoice this time, it was a direct bank transfer. And I was like, all right, well, cool. I've got some gift cards I'd like you to buy, Slight segue from this one. Someone was telling me the other day, his assistant phoned him one day out of breath saying, I've got all the gift cards you asked me to get. And he's like, I've got no clue what you're talking about. And then the guy was like, no, you've literally just sent me an email. I like, I've not sent you an email. He's like, can you get a refund on gift cards? I don't know. And it turns out that the person had been phished, bought the gift cards, and then phoned his boss to say, I bought those for you. Nuts. It can happen to pretty much anyone. So yeah, the only defense against that kind of thing is user education. I know everybody hates the wee phishing videos, but they actually do work. The last story here is, so this one's probably the hardest one I've been involved in, probably the most difficult to justify to anyone in the business. So this was a successful ransomware attack. This was the whole thing. The network was completely compromised. Not a single system hadn't been accessed. Not a single system wasn't covered in encryption, or hadn't been encrypted or had artifacts in it from encryption. It was just wrecked. And I think the key thing that was upsetting is probably not the right word, but like it took me back when I got there. There was people running around going. The network guy had like cables around his neck, running around. I was like, "What are you doing?" So I'm trying to get the network back. I was like, "Well, stop doing that because we don't know if anybody's here." Which leads me on to contain. There was nothing to contain. The whole thing was burst. The whole thing was encrypted. Everything was unplugged. The whole thing was wrecked. So all you could do from there was rebuild, and we were rebuilding with security in mind, trying to make sure that it's built better. That's probably the best they'll ever be with security first approach. They'll never be more secure than they are at this very moment. The findings from that, security is hard, right? It's easy to make a joke about the security. The network guy running around, right? It is difficult. These people were really underprepared. Preparedness is critical, so small business, big business, I do not care if you are prepared for this. If you've tested and you know where everything is, you're going to be able to come back from this. Backups are also important, that's not on this slide. And test. Make sure that you can test how prepared you are. Are you able to come back? You think you can come back. You've got policies coming out your back end. You can't just stack all your policies around your servers and go, I am secure now. You've got to test it to make sense and work. This one actually, just very quickly on this, the killing ransomware gang are the ones who were responsible for this, and I was the one negotiating with them, and they are horrible people. They're very good at negotiating as well, I have to say. Without going into too much detail, because I don't want to leak anything, but there was an offer made to them and they just come back and said, we're not interested in that, give us 10 times that. Talking millions and millions here. I really should have had the ransomware portal stuff in here. Screenshots, because they'd be more interesting. Okay, so that is that one. So what's the conclusion? So the thing I think I want people to remember is, even though I've made some jokes throughout, is these people are victims, right? When people get compromised, people lose their jobs, companies shut down. There was a transport company down south called Knights of Old, which was hundreds of years old, gone, wiped off the face of the earth. It really is a serious thing. Be aware, be prepared, be proactive. So know that these threats are out there and no one is too small. They do not care. They will ransomware whoever they can get. The attackers do not care. Be prepared. Do some kind of protection. You just make sure it's covered. And be proactive. Do it now. Don't wait until next year. Reflect is in here because I wanted to tell 3 things and I wanted to end on a deep note. So reflect on everything I've just said. Is it? Questions?
There we go.
Hi, I have a question. In your opinion, is it mostly likely that the attackers come from insider threats? Because, well, you know, insider mostly knows every secret in the company. Thank you.
I would say that most attacks don't come from inside, but someone inside has enabled the attacker. It doesn't have to be malicious either, right? People accidentally do things. So, for example, one of the things I was talking about, an overprivileged account somewhere was what caused it. Just the person was like, I'm in a hurry, I'll just give them domain admin and I'll fix it later, and they do not fix it later. Insider threats are actually quite rare in my experience, but again, I normally get called out to incidents that are big and messy. Insider threats tend to be slow and, you know. So I also think insider threats are underreported, right? Because you don't, if they're not stealing any personal data, they're not leaking it anyway, you don't need to tell anyone. You should tell people, but they don't.
Passing your hand back. We've got a lot of questions. Can you pass that over? Thank you.
So most of that applies to like big companies, but what about stuff if you're doing anything at home? Like I've got ports willy-nilly open on my router.
You get 3389 open to the internet. Sorry, finish your question, apologies.
Yeah, no, just how, like, what would you be doing to kind of implement stuff at home?
For the average person, just having like the baked-in defender is actually all right these days. It used to be a bit of a joke, but it's actually all right. Not visiting mucky internet sites on your actual machine. Do it on a VM if you want. Just the main thing is don't be silly, right? Don't click links you don't know. Don't open emails from, you know, wherever and click all the links in there. It's for the end user in the home setting. The thing that's more likely to get is something that you think, I'll download that because it makes this thing easier and it's got like an info stealer in it or a crypto miner or whatever. That attack vector's really changed over the years. It used to be that was the main thing that attackers went after because everybody would just click stuff. But like I say, if you keep Windows up to date, if you use Windows, if you use Linux, whatever it is, right, keep your OS up to date, have some antivirus on it, and don't click silly things is probably enough. If you are going to do silly stuff, do it in a VM or do it in a machine you don't care about getting trashed.
Great talk. Can I have the email for the person from the second talk? No, serious question. What's the frequency that you see ransomware going on? Is it like hundreds per month, per year? What's like, how much is this growing in general?
Good question. So I don't see it that frequently person to person, or not person to machine, right? Because I don't actually see the ransomware actor, but I see it a couple of times a year, big ones. Couple of times a year, failed ones. If you are willing to go into Tor and go and look at the ransomware actors' blogs, you'll see every day 2 or 3 per ransomware actor, all the time. Just today, I was looking at the Killing blog, that's why I'm talking about it so much just now. They've had 3 go up today, and this week, every single day I went in 2 or 3, every single time. They're everywhere, and it's so easy. The barrier to entry has been lowered by the ransomware as a service guys. Basically means that if you know a wee bit, if anybody in this room really wanted to, they could go and do that. Genuinely, you could. It's whether or not you want to get involved with crazy Russian and Ukrainian people who will come after you if you don't do well. But yeah, anybody in here could do that. I'm pretty confident of that. Don't do it, though. Don't do it, but yeah, you could.
Great talk. So thinking about companies that are not particularly mature in terms of cybersecurity, so say your bus company, for example, how do you start to have that conversation, say you're one person in that company and that you don't really have any allies that understand or perceive the threat in the same way? How do you start to build their awareness?
Really good question. So stakeholder buy-in for security is one of the most important things you can get, and it can be difficult because it's one of these things that produces no revenue, produces no value as they see it. It's all about cost avoidance, right? If I put this thing in, it's going to cost me less over time. So the main thing you can do is basically show them what happens when it doesn't get done and just be that advocate. If they don't take you up on it, you can always say, I told you so.
Awesome, I think that's us finished. Can we just have a massive round of applause for Peter, please? I think that was exceptional. Brilliant, mate. I think he responded very well considering I interrupted him twice, so I have to say that was great. No, you've done great. I've been told that there is a slide, I believe, 2 from this, which is Chris is going to come up and say a little thing about. Can you do it in the mic as well for the stream before we close off here? I know. He was even trying to ask questions.
Definitely did not forget this from the end of my own talk. So the Glasgow Indie Games Fest is an event that runs yearly, showing off a bunch of indie games. I think there's like 18 participants this year. There's a bunch of talks, music, all that kind of thing. There are still tickets on sale for the one on the 9th of August, just up at the back of the Barrowlands Ballroom. It's been amazing every time I've went. If you're interested in games, I would really highly recommend it. Thanks very much.
Brilliant, thank you. Okie dokie. So this is also the first time for me doing this, so I will probably make a mistake. If people start waving their hands at me, I'll keep an eye out. But this is just some other active community meetups. We'll leave that up there if you want to do some QR scanning, take a picture of it, whatever. We've got Ladies of Code, Glasgow JavaScript. I've been to that event myself. It's a really good organised event with Jamie McHale, Alan. But that's actually, we met him for the recording of that, which is great. We have the Azure user group and then Codebase events as well. I'll leave them up there for a little second. I believe the next slide is, does anyone have any announcements they would like to make about any other events or anything else in the community that you would be excited for people to attend? You can either just tell me just now, or you can come up and say a few words on the mic if you would like to. Yeah, go for it. Up you come, Paul.
So I think it's Friday the 12th of September this year is Data Scotland over at Strathclyde University at the TIC. It's a free conference. I think last year there was about just around 1,000 attendees. I've been going for the last 2 years now. It's been really good. And now I'm giving a talk at it this year. So that'll be really cool. So yeah, shout out for that.
Awesome. Anyone else got anything at all? No? Okie dokie. We'll move on to, let's see what the next ones are. We're going to move on to drinks, but I'm just going to say, I think on behalf of myself, Stephen and Aaron, I want to give a shout out to Stephen. Stephen's been an absolute driving force behind making this happen today. Aaron and I have definitely helped out, but Stephen has been the one that's made this happen. So, well done. I do not want to steal the thunder for this because this is a team effort, but we are excited to make this the best it possibly can be. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming along tonight. I think it's super exciting that we've got the video recordings. Great turnout. Thank you so much to our speakers. We'd love for you all to come to Jackson's Bar for some drinks. It's 9-minute walk, 3-minute cycle, 2-minute drive, but we do usually head along there. Have anyone welcome. Hopefully we'll have some great chats. And again, thank you very much for joining. Thank you, folks.